Hi, it's Christina with Tinagirl Life, and today I'm going to show you how to make sweet potato biscuits. So last weekend in Canada, it was Thanksgiving. Normally, if I had cooked the dinner, I would probably have leftover sweet potato casserole that I could use to make this recipe, but I don't. So I'm just going to start with an actual sweet potato. For this recipe, all I need is 1 cup, so probably a third of this. I think I'm going to cook the whole thing up though and use it for other things. I love sweet potatoes, and I know that one of the first questions I'm going to get from a viewer is, can I use a yam for this recipe? So yams are starchier and drier, and they aren't quite as sweet, so stick with the good old sweet potato. Try and cube each piece so they're relatively the same size. Next, you're going to fill your pot with cold water just to cover the potatoes. Set your stove on high and pop the lid on and just let them cook. And you know what? I'm always surprised with sweet potatoes. They take way less time to boil to the soft stage. So check on them a few times while they're cooking. And when a fork goes in easily, they're done. For this recipe, I'm quickly mashing them on a plate, only because I'm not using all of them right away. So I only want to mash as many as I need. The plate helps them cool down really fast too. Sweet potatoes are loaded with nutrition. They're really high in vitamin A, vitamin C, manganese, vitamin B6, and potassium. They're so good. All right, there, I've got my 1 cup of mashed sweet potatoes, and I'm going to save the rest of these for dinner tomorrow night. I'm going to heat them up by adding some oil to my pan and pan fry them. The heat from the oil will kind of caramelize the sugar and create like a bit of a crispy skin and soft center. They're amazing. Okay, our sweet potato is cooked and mashed and fairly cool, and we're going to get started with our wet ingredients. So I'm going to start with a 1/4 cup of oil, 1 egg, a 1/4 cup of milk. Now that 1/4 cup of oil is the only fat that goes into this recipe, like the only oil type of fat. So these are actually a lot healthier biscuits than, say, a biscuit made out of butter or lard. And then we're going to add our sweet potato. And I'm just going to mix those ingredients together. So these are considered our wet ingredients, and then we're going to mix together our dry ingredients. So I just kind of made a slurry, we'll call it. These are super easy. So whenever I bring these biscuits somewhere, people think they're cheese biscuits because of the sweet potato, but they're not cheese biscuits, they're sweet potato biscuits. Now we're going to put together our dry ingredients, and we're starting with 1 3/4 cups of flour. So I've pre-mixed that already. 1/4 teaspoon of salt. 4 teaspoons of baking powder. Seems like a lot, but you need that in a biscuit. And then we need 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. So I just kind of roughly make a little soft mound like that, 2 tablespoons of that. And then we're just going to mix this together. So when that's all combined, no lumps. All right, let's mix the wet ingredients to the dry ingredients. Okay, so that just looks like that, and I'm going to use a spatula just to kind of fold it together. I don't want this to be like mixed with a mixer. We're not making cake, we're making biscuits, so we want it to be like a biscuit dough mixture kind of, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a second here. So I'm just kind of cutting it in with my spatula, just kind of combining it without making it too perfect. So I'm almost cutting it in using the end of my spatula. All right, this is looking great. Okay, so I would say that's done. I don't want to mix it too much because we're going to be forming it with our hands anyways, so we need to leave some room for that mixture to combine even more when we're doing that. Okay, we're ready to roll out the biscuits. So I just have this little cup of flour here, just so that I can grab a pinch and flour my surface. Now I like working on like a silpat or something like that, and that's what I've got here. So I'm just giving it a light flour dusting. Get this stuff out of the way. And I'm going to put a little flour on my hands just so that I don't stick to the dough. See, I don't stick to the dough. So the dough doesn't stick to me. I'm not editing that out. Okay, here we go. So it holds together really nicely. And it does look like a cheese biscuit. And what you're going to do is just kind of flatten it out. I'm going to use my French rolling pin just to get it sort of to about 3/4 of an inch thick. Now, if you like any of the kitchen utensils that I'm using, I'm going to add a link to those below in the description. So if you watch me using something and you think, I need one of those, which is something I do all the time, the link will be below in the description. And so you can order one for yourself. There's nothing nicer than a well-equipped kitchen, that's for sure. So I just have these little cups from IKEA. I'm sure most of the world has a set of these cups if you have a little human in your life. And they're such an excellent little cutter to make biscuits. And so just cut that out. Now the recipe actually calls for 2.5 inch, and I think this is about a 3-inch mouth to this cup. That's okay. So anytime I make these are a huge hit for our family. And again, such a great way to use up sweet potato if you have leftover sweet potato or you're wondering what to do with that. All right. So when you have the leftover dough, just go ahead and I'll do that again. Add a little flour to it. It's getting a bit sticky. Flatten it out. I like French rolling pins. I find that because of their shape, I have a little more control over when I'm rolling it out. If I use this thicker part, it pushes that out. If I want to just use the edges, I don't know how to explain it. It's just a really neat rolling pin to actually use, especially if you're making ovals or something like that, or circles. All right. Looks like we're going to get more than 12 here. This is amazing. So you can see why we didn't want to work too much with the dough when it was originally in the bowl, because the more you work with the dough, actually, the tougher the dough will get. So looks like I'm going to get 2 more out of this. Wow, that's a lot of biscuits. Okay, and these are now ready to go in the oven. So I set the oven at 425. All right, let's check them out. Oh, they look good. Okay, they look really good. Little tiny bit of brown on the bottom, which is perfect. Nice rise on that little biscuit. We're gonna let them cool, and then we're going to put some butter on them and try one. They taste amazing, and I can definitely see why people think that these are cheese biscuits, because those sweet potatoes definitely look like cheddar cheese. You could definitely add something else in there as well. If you wanted to make them more savory, you might want to add something like a little garlic or garlic powder. To go the other direction though and make them a little more festive, you could add some nutmeg or some cinnamon to them, which I think would be amazing. If you scroll down to my description below, I'll have the recipe there, as well as some links for things that I used in my kitchen today, in case you're wanting to add something like that to your kitchen. Hey, thanks for watching Tinagirl Life today. Make sure you subscribe to my channel so you won't miss out on any of my upcoming videos. Thanks for watching.